She decided to live her truth. Ryan Webb knew she was in the fight of her life. Living under the oppression of heteronormative standards is considered business as usual to most women. But Ryan faced a different learning curve. Many of the everyday experiences of women were new to her because until a few months ago, this lesbian woman of color identified as a cisgender white man. Ryan knew her stunning bravery would make her a target, but she never anticipated the amount of hate she would face from her new community. This is a big moment for Ryan Webb. Agreeing to an interview after revealing her identity as a transgender lesbian of color requires a different sort of bravery than we normally see in the political world. What is it like to be so brave?
Well, I've never really looked at myself as being brave. I just simply declare how I see myself and my own expression of my own gender identity. And I didn't look at it as being brave. Now I've been told by others that it is brave. And for those people, I appreciate that. But, I was immune to seeing it from that perspective.
Perspective is something that can help all of us understand Ryan. Her life story is sadly all too familiar. A young woman of color stuck in a society that doesn't see her pain or hear her cries. Sitting around the dinner table at night, did you have a chance as a family to talk about things like gender identity, gender fluidity? I'm sure that probably...
Believe it or not, we didn't. At that time growing up, I don't even know if those words were spoken with the familiarity that they are today. Things we talked about was, what we're going to have for dinner, what things we're going to do together later as a family, maybe what family program we were going to sit down and watch together for the evening. Those are the things we talked about.
The political arena became the perfect place for Ryan's internal frustrations to play out. Years ago, identifying as a cisgender white man, Ryan burst onto the scene fighting corruption and seeking fairness in local politics. But while fighting the good fight for her constituents on the outside, Ryan was fighting a much bigger battle on the inside. And it was only after being elected, in fact, relatively recently, that you started to realize that you're actually a woman.
I've always felt something, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I've been hearing lately, in the last year or so, over and over, that only a woman knows what a woman is. And I knew I was feeling something, but I didn't know what it was. So I thought, well, let me check into it. So I tried to look it up, and I couldn't find anything anywhere describing what a woman was. So going back to that statement, only a woman knows what a woman is, I thought, well, I'm definitely feeling something, so this has got to be it.
You came out of 3 closets at once. Woman of color, lesbian.
The reason why I identify as the woman of color is because I have a Cherokee bloodline, Native American on both sides. My great-grandmother on my father's side was a full-blooded Cherokee Native American. And recently, we had done an ancestry DNA test, and that helped me recognize that it's my 4th or 5th grandfather, great-grandfather, I can't remember which one it is, but he's actually chief walking stick of the Cherokee Nation in North Carolina. So being as that I had Cherokee on both sides, I thought, you know what, this is awesome, and that allows me to classify myself as the woman of color that I am. What makes me the lesbian is the fact that I am still madly in love with my wife, and that'll never change. I'm still attracted to her as a woman.
Navigating her new identity as a lesbian woman of color came natural to the councilwoman as well. What was the process of understanding the transracial identity in particular?
You'd have to recognize that being a lesbian woman of color does, affect 3 different protected groups and classes. Now, because of that, I have come out and been recognized as the first woman of color in the history of Delaware County Council. Now, I don't believe that they're going to give me any awards for that, but it's possible they may name some local park after me or something. We'll see what the future holds.
What's really brave about you is that you came out as a trans woman of color, and yet you have changed nothing about yourself physically. So you're just literally the exact same person, but at the same time, you're a woman of color.
I did take the step of changing my name. I used to go by Ryan, which would be Ryan, the male version, but now I'm using the name Ryan, but it's the female version.
Same spelling.
Same spelling.
When you're out in front of an issue like this, there are always going to be people that doubt. What's your response to them?
Well, I would say I've heard that. And to that, I would say it was just a few short years ago that they said that you couldn't identify, a man couldn't identify as a woman without taking the steps necessary to do so. And that's no longer true. I mean, I'm living proof of it.
The gender identity is one's personal sense of one's own gender. Let's say it again. One's personal sense of one's own gender. Doesn't have to be affirmed by anyone. It doesn't say everyone has to agree with it. It doesn't say everyone has to take you serious. It says a person's sense of his own gender.
Although Ryan served as a beacon of hope to some,
I would like to commend you for the strength of character that you've shown, Councilwoman Webb. It is indeed a brave and courageous act to come out in times as they are.
her entire existence was challenged by others.
You are a public figure. You work for us. You should be fired.
He's flaunting the minority, lesbian as such, as the first council person as a lesbian.
With his facetious claim that he identifies as a woman of color, he has made a mockery of his constituents as well as his elected position and this council.
Honestly, that kind of took me by surprise. I thought that I would have been accepted and celebrated, really, for the groundbreaking nature of what it is. You can imagine my surprise when the local leftists and liberals united attack against me. They coordinated efforts online to try to cancel me, embarrass me, shame me, bully me, to get me to back off.
Of all the comments Ryan heard that night, she is still haunted by one in particular. I have to warn you, what you're about to hear is disturbing.
At the county council meeting, there's a transgender person there, Charlie, just a couple of years ago. Charlize told me that for me to be accepted in their eyes, I would have to change my pronouns and take the hormone treatments, change all my documents.
Last week, Councilperson Ryan Webb announced publicly on social media and to several news outlets that he now identifies as a lesbian woman of color, retaining his male pronouns and bragging that he is now the first, this is a quote, LGBTQ plus woman of color to ever sit on the Delaware County Council. He is being disingenuous, and his words not only embarrass himself, but you, the county council.
To see that kind of bigotry coming from such a beautiful woman was really startling, almost.
I couldn't believe that Charlize was willing to lay out requirements to be accepted moving forward. So that was shocking to me.
Now that she has publicly made her transition, Ryan hopes to use her voice to inspire others in the fight for anti-racism and shine a light onto the unique hardships faced by women today. Now, we have seen other minorities struggle for acceptance. Elon Musk, for example, rarely is included in the conversation about African Americans. You've been on both sides of the spectrum now. What is it that you think men in this country need to know about the lived experiences of women?
It's not been all that it's cut up to be. Everyone thinks there's a lot of advantages to come with being a woman, but for me, these last 3 weeks, it's been a little difficult. For one, my wife's been having me cook a lot more, and number two, nobody's been taking me serious on anything I'm saying. I've had a hard time getting people to believe me when I tell them that this is my true, authentic self.
If you're telling me that yourself as a BIPOC woman, your experience for 3 weeks has been rejection, hatred, people not taking you seriously, let's say you've had a pretty authentic experience.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the perspective. It allows for a complete paradigm shift that I hadn't contemplated before.
No matter what her detractors say, Ryan is proud of who she is and even more optimistic about what the future holds. What does the future hold? We talked about history. What does the future hold for Ryan Webb? Are there any other closets that you might come out of in the future?
This process of self-discovery, the journey of gender discovery and gender identity, it's complex, and oftentimes it takes us places that we never intended to go, and who knows? By the time this is all said and done, I could end up right back where I started.
When I think of the great female civil rights heroes of our time, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Susan B. Anthony, Ryan Webb.
You know, I can only hope to be put up there with some of the legends of our time, but you know, we'll see. You know, history has a funny way of shaking out over time, so.
Hello, I'm Matt Walsh. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can get all of our brand new content the moment it's released.